Guys, this is Dave Heilman, aka Dynasty Dorks, and this is the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and we're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added the Pick'em Scorchers, where you can win 100 times. That's right, turn $5 into 500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday they're giving away $100K. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're also brought to you by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with promo code SGP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use promo code SGP. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. All right, we're here. It is week 6 already, so it's pretty much halfway through your season. And at this point, you probably know if you are a rebuilder or a contender. So we're going to talk about some rebuilding. And Brad took over a team that is 4-1, but it's got some older pieces, and it might be time to sell. And we're going to talk about some of the values of those pieces because values are subjective, no matter what some trade calculator says, no matter what some value chart says, no matter what a Twitter poll or Reddit poll says. But at the end of the day, you're trying to make the value, you're trying to get the best value or, not spend too much. And so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about trade targets, quarterback trade targets, tight end trade targets, how to trade down, some targets, as well as some value, some price checks. And, if you have any questions, let us know. And as always,
hit that button. Hit that button.
Hit that subscriber button. So, Brad, let's talk about this 4-1 team and some pieces you're trying to sell.
It is pretty crazy. So I got asked to take over this orphan. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to sell pieces early in the offseason, but Raheem Mostert, you couldn't move. Gus Edwards, you couldn't move. Adam Thielen, you couldn't move. None of these guys were really valuable. So trying to figure out what do I do with this team? And I ended up getting pretty lucky. Had a super easy schedule through the first 5 weeks, and I am now 4-1 with the team that you see on the screen here. Quarterbacks, Daniel Jones and C.J. Stroud. Running backs, Raheem Mostert and Gus Edwards. Wide receivers, Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin, Adam Thielen, Tyler Boyd, George Pickens, and my tight end is Tyler Higbee. Like, this team definitely should not be 4-1, but when I took this team over, I also did not have my own 2024 first-round pick. So you find yourself in a little bit of a predicament here. You're 4-1. Raheem Mostert, smash sell for pretty much any dynasty squad right now, unless you're a top 2 or 3 team. Maybe you're missing one piece and you're a 4, 5, 6 team that you want to plug them in there. Same thing with Adam Thielen. Both of these players as top 10 fantasy options at their positions right now. And guys offering late thirds or an early fourth for both of them. And Dave, here's where my head's at. I want to know what your perspective is. I got an offer for Raheem Mostert for a 4th-round pick. I got an offer for Adam Thielen for a late third. And because I don't have my first, I'm telling the guys, no. I'm going to hold it because all this is going to do, number one, a late third, early fourth is not really going to do much for me in a rebuild type situation. And when I don't have my first, I want to make it as hard or as bad as possible for the guy that currently owns that 2024 first. Am I crazy? Should I have unloaded Raheem Mostert and Adam Thielen for those 2 picks?
No, definitely not. I had similar today. I tried to send an offer for Raheem Mostert. He said Raheem Mostert for a 2nd-round pick is available on the trade block. And so I said, hey, I'm interested. I'll give you 2/3. And so 2/3 was not enough. He sent me back a 2nd for Raheem Mostert and a 4th. And I said, I just can't give a 2nd for a guy that's going to have 0 value next year. If he gets injured right now, he has 0 value. 2/3 I feel like is plenty. A 1/3 I think is fair value. And he was like, nope. And I said, hey, good luck. If somebody else is willing to pay a 2nd, then you can have it. If not, come back to me and let's get it done.
Yep. And that's where I'm at right now. Look, I'm on the opposite end of that. Hey, I would like to get a late second for either one of those guys. And I'm in a situation where I don't need to sell them. I'm totally fine letting Raheem Mostert and Adam Thielen die on my roster if it means making that first that somebody else owns as bad as possible. Now, my philosophy would be different if I had that 24 first. If I had that 24 first, I'm likely going to take a third or 2/3 for Raheem Mostert, a third for Adam Thielen, as I did in another league that I am in, where I'm a middling kind of team. I'm like, look, this is not, I'm like 6, 7, 8 in that squad. It just doesn't make sense to hold him when I can get some value out of him right now. So that situation is a little bit different, but this one right now, without that first, it does change how you approach your dynasty squad and the values that you're willing to accept for certain players off of it.
Yeah. So the first thing I'm doing in any rebuild, like I have a team that the team is good. The team is 4th in points in the league, and I just happen to keep running up against tough opponents. And it's a division league, so there's 3 different divisions, and only 6 teams make the playoffs. So it's difficult. And so I'm 1-4, even though I'm the 4th highest scoring team. And so I'm like, listen, I gotta road meets the road. I'm probably gonna have to start just rebuilding this thing. And I got some good pieces to sell. But the first thing I need to do is try to get my first. So I went and offered Ken Walker for my first. So listen, your team's pretty good. You can probably contend this year. Looks like you need another running back. Give me my first back. I'll give you Ken Walker. He sends back like 2 seconds and something else and something else and something else for Ken Walker. I said, listen, I appreciate it, but I'm not going to take 5 quarters for my dollar. I'm just going to keep my dollar. But we can talk. If I'm in that case, like I'm not going to sell off other pieces and I'm going to try to compete. Maybe he comes back to me. But in this scenario, I'm looking at some pieces on here and saying, okay, is Marquise Brown someone that can help me get my first back? Is packaging Godwin with somebody hurt, packaging Godwin and Mostert, using Mostert
So it's
and
interesting
Thielen.
that you say that, because I did get an offer that I'm throwing around right now. It's Chris Godwin and Raheem Mostert for my guy that I love, Jahan Dotson, and a 2024 second. So I've been kicking that can a little bit. Like, I think that's pretty good value for the 2 of them. It gives me a little bit of draft capital, and that second's going to be like early to mid. I'm thinking maybe 203 type of space. And Jahan Dotson, who I'm a big believer in. I know some others aren't. And then I got another offer for the other Washington Commanders wide receiver, the same deal, Raheem Mostert and Chris Godwin for Terry McLaurin. Are either of those deals something that you would be interested in there?
I would not, because I still want to try to get my first back. The minute you make that deal, your first becomes unattainable. If at the end of the day you find out that your first is unattainable, then don't. But like right now, it's 4-1. Like you have a little bit more leverage than me with 1-4.
Yep.
So use that leverage to go get it. Right now, it's a late first.
Pretty damn hard right now.
I'll give you a late first from Marquise Brown. I'll tell you right now, I turned down. Someone offered me Shane Barrett offered me Marquise Brown and Alexander Madison for a first. I turned it down 2 weeks ago, and he's hard pressed. Marquise Brown's not going for less than a first. So maybe you go and try to sell Marquise Brown and Mostert. The guy you want to target is the person that has your first. If he flat out says, no offense, man, your first looks good, I'm going to keep it, then maybe you start looking at other moves. But he's my main target. Send him flowers, send him some beer, send him some funny gifts. Do what you can to get him to make that deal. Then you can go make your other deals. You have to sell your entire team for that first. But I'm doing whatever I can to get it, because that gives me the control. Right now, if you go and do that, your first is harder to attain, because they recognize right off the bat, oh, this guy's rebuilding or he's tanking. And that first is getting more and more valuable.
No, for sure. And hey, you talk about Marquise Brown. He's one of my favorite picks on Underdog this week. And Underdog gives you a way to play alongside with your favorite football teams all season long. They've just introduced what's called the Scorchers. If you go 5 for 5 in a Pick'em Scorcher, you get to enjoy that spicy 100 times payout. And for a limited time on Underdog, they are extending a first-time deposit bonus of up to $500. And now they have $100,000 Sunday contest continuing on Underdog Fantasy, where 10 lucky players will win $10,000 each. I talked about Marquise Brown. I'm taking the over, the higher on 57.5 receiving yards right now. I love what we're seeing out of Marquise Brown and can't wait for Kyler Murray to return. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up with our promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit of up to $500. Again, that's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN.
We're also brought to you today by Manscaped, who has taken a step up from Halloween to bring your face the cleanest shave it's ever seen. So this season, no need to toil and trouble. Manscaped's all-new Handyman is the best way to get rid of that stubble. Featuring a compact design and next-gen skin-safe technology, the Handyman was designed to give you the smooth finish without the mess of a traditional shave. Get the sweetest treat this Halloween by going to manscaped.com. Use promo code SGP for 20% off plus free shipping. It may be a spooky season, but you don't want to scare people with a scraggly beard, Brad. Give them something to look at with Manscaped's Handyman. As far as Manscaped, all of their products are absolutely amazing. I know I personally use it. I've gotten some gifts for some friends, and I've gotten some gifts back from the wife who was impressed. Get 20% off and free shipping with SGP with promo code SGP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using promo code SGP for a look as sweet as candy. Get yourself the Handyman from Manscaped.
Look, I've been trying to get this thing from my wife for a while. Like, hey, babe, I really want to get a Manscaped. Maybe not the Handyman. It's the, what is it? The lawnmower, right? I think is what it's called.
Lawnmower 5.0.
Babe, I really want to get a
something like
lawnmower.
that.
She's like, no, you're not getting that. You already have a beard trimmer. I'm like, this is not okay. I need a Manscaped lawnmower. I think it's 4.0 is what they're at now.
Yeah,
So-
let's not. You don't want to shave the face and the undercarriage with the same tools. Yeah.
Hey,
So
works for both. All right. There's disinfectant you can spray on that thing.
there is. So let's get into some quarterback and some tight end trade targets. Don't trade your lawnmower 4.0 unless you're going to get a Handyman Plus. So the first guy that I want to bring up is Justin Fields. I put a post out a couple weeks ago after his big game against Denver and said that buy low window for Justin Fields slammed shut. Did it open up a sell high window? And there was a lot of comments. Some people were like, yeah. Some people were like, I'm glad I held. I'm glad I did this. And there were a lot of people that were like, LMAO, LMFAO, ha, ha, ha. Who's buying that garbage? And then he went and had a absolutely awesome game against Washington, and he did it through the air. It was a very impressive performance. And I just retweeted my tweet and just said, asking you again, is this the sell high window? Because you can't buy low on Justin Fields right now because he's coming off of 2 top weeks. And a lot of people said last year he was a slow starter, and he took off. And so what are your thoughts here? What's Justin Fields going for right now? Because honestly, sell and buy always just comes down to what's the value.
That it does. Right now, without looking, I've got them up on the screen. I'm trying not to look at them. Without really looking at those, to me, he feels like a sell because not only the 2 big games, those 2 big games come up against Denver and Washington. And if you watch the Washington game, it wasn't really good. He was like 50% completion percentage, if that. which has been kind of the case for him 3 out of the 5 games that he's played. And he's not rushing the ball as much as what we saw last year. So you're not getting that really solid floor that we saw out of him. So to me, you bundle those 2 games up without any context around.
What's up, Jamie?
And you said, Jamie, what's going on, bud? And you smash that sell button, right? You take those big offers. Now, let's take a look at some offers and see if that's actually what you're able to get. So the first offer we'll look through, Justin Fields and Raheem Mostert for Geno Smith, Nico Collins, a second and a third. Again, that's Justin Fields and Raheem Mostert for Geno Smith, Nico Collins, a second and a third.
Yeah, I'm taking the deal because I'm not a believer in the long term. I mean, the Bears, sorry, Caleb Williams fans, the Bears have their pick and the Carolina Panthers pick. The Carolina Panthers are the only team that is winless, and the Bears have 1 win. They are very much in the running for Caleb Williams. I know there's these rumors about him staying at USC. There's rumors every year that Trevor Lawrence was going to do it and that Joe Burrow was going to do it. Caleb Williams knows that at year 6, year 5, you are in for a massive payday. And you don't want to delay that any longer. We saw what Burrow just got paid. Imagine in 5 years what that's going to be inflated to be for Caleb Williams. He's going to want to get to that second contract. But yes, it is the Bears, and that is going to be very difficult for him. But yeah, I mean, you're getting Geno Smith and, a second. Geno Smith, 32 years old. There's not much saying that he's going to have a shorter career than Justin Fields, in my opinion. Nico Collins, you're getting Nico Collins from Raheem Mostert in a third. Like, yeah, sign me up.
That's fair. And I could see either side of this deal, depending on if you're a believer in Justin Fields. Me personally, he's still getting pressured, I think the second most out of any quarterback in the NFL right now. His completion percentage, like I said, this week, even in a huge 4-touchdown week, was about 50%. Not good, and that's against Washington, who doesn't have a great secondary. Now they've got some pass rushers that can wreak some havoc, but it didn't really come to fruition from a sack perspective. He was able to maneuver outside the pocket and make some plays, but I still don't like what I see from a passer progression and the building on his skill sets coming out of Ohio State. So I feel like I could do better than Geno, though, right? I feel like I could get more than Geno in a second for him. I love the idea of Nico in a third for Mostert. If you can make that happen, I think in most dynasty leagues, you're probably not going to be able to because Nico is a young wide receiver who's really showing out that he can be a true alpha when you've got competent quarterback play with CJ Stroud. So I don't know that's
that little bit of extra makes the Geno in second, I'm just splitting them up, but that extra profit on the Nico side adds to the, to that other side. So Fields has pretty good matchups the next few weeks. He's got Minnesota, Las Vegas, and LA. If I'm selling him, I'm looking to get a young quarterback plus a pick, or I'm just going to go and get multiple picks. And so I think you could probably sell Fields for a first plus. And if it's, I don't know if you can get an early first for him, but a mid first and a second or 2 late first, I think would be probably the going rate right now. Jamie said just trade away Ford for the 4th time for an early 24 second, which should be the 201. Yeah, that's how you do it. That's how you do it right there. You find that $20 bill and you're doing the laundry and you turn it into the 201. Last place teams trading for Ford. They're not paying attention to this show. If you're a last place team and you're buying Jerome Ford, not good business. Brett, anything else on Fields before we move on to Tua?
There's a couple other offers, just real quick. We'll run through them. It can be a simple yes or no. Would you trade Justin Fields for J.K. Dobbins and Cooper Kupp?
That's tough. Dobbins is coming off a second major injury. Kupp is coming off of 2 major injuries. And we got we'll say 1 major injury plus the hamstring. I'd probably take the Kupp side, but honestly, like, I don't know. Like, this one doesn't really do much for me. It's just team dependent.
Yeah, I'd hold Fields on that one. What about Justin Fields or Drake London? So I know I'm higher on Drake London than you are, but I know you like rebuilding with wide receivers first. So is that a deal you'd be willing to take a look at?
I'd be looking for better options. Same with the last trade. I just like, what do you like? You're trading Fields away for an older player that's coming off of an injury, multiple injuries, and you're coming off of, and then you got another guy that's got just tore his Achilles. Like, I don't see the purpose of those trades. Like, a rebuilding team should not be selling a young quarterback for 2 older injured players. And then Drake London
a lot
is
of
great.
these Field deals. Justin Fields for Derrick Henry is on here.
Yeah, it seems interesting to me. Like, for me, I get it from the other side, selling older players for a younger quarterback, because what if Fields goes and is the quarterback of somewhere else next year? I mean, Fields could end up being traded and being a starter somewhere next year. There's a lot of bad quarterbacks in the league right now. There's a lot of injured quarterbacks, a lot of older quarterbacks, and you could see a team get Justin Fields on a rookie contract next year and be able to roll with it. So, like, I'm okay keeping Fields in those scenarios. I would want to get some picks, or earlier where you get Geno Smith and Nico Collins. So that's where I'm at.
All right, let's move on to my quarterback that I wanted to bring up from a trade perspective. But before we do that, we're going to talk about Hall of Fame bets. And look, you want to win big, you want the edge. And by doing that, you go into Hall of Fame bets and bet smarter this season. The sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines gives you research for all NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer games where you can bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea. So you go into DraftKings Sportsbook or BetMGM or whatever your betting app of choice is. You build your parlay, and then you go into Hall of Fame bets, enter all that data in. They've got a revolutionary parlay optimizer tool that gives you your hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an overall probability of hitting on the entire parlay. You can sort all of your players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. So stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users who researching with Hall of Fame bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use our promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets.
Use it this weekend. It told me to take Jordan Love out, but Jared Goff in, $100. So
love it.
Thank you, Hall of Fame Bets.
Love it.
And let's talk about Tua.
Ooh, you want to do Tua? We were going to go.
Well, who do you got? Who do you got?
Yeah, we were going to go Kyler. That was kind of the lead in there, talking about Kyler a little bit. So, look, this dude's not even played a snap this season. We know that, but those are typically the times that you want to capitalize to kind of buy low. A guy who hasn't come back yet, a guy that's still on the PUP, maybe 2 more weeks, it sounds like, before he's even given the opportunity to come back. And even then, there's all this rumors swirling around Arizona on whether or not they are even going to continue forward with Kyler Murray. Look, even if Arizona says, sorry, Kyler, pack your bags, we're moving you, he's too good to not be a starting quarterback for some other NFL franchise. So I think you need to take the shot on Kyler Murray. We've seen what he can do with his legs. He's a much better passer than some of these other rushing quarterbacks that we've seen as well. And he's got, in my opinion, a head coach that can get a team to play. He can get a team to rally. There is no reason that the Arizona Cardinals should be a competitive team. That roster is amongst one of the worst in the NFL, and he has them playing this hard every single week. Josh Dobbs, he didn't look great this week, but Josh Dobbs looked good. James Conner was playing well. Michael Wilson is starting to see upticks in snaps and targets and whatnot. Marquise Brown playing well. Zach Ertz getting tons of targets, and the defense is playing much better than expected as well. So I think Kyler is a guy you got to pay attention to. When you can move Kyler Murray for Deshaun Watson, Dave, where are you at with that? Jamie, if you're still watching, I think you are. Hit me up in here. We're fellow Cleveland Browns guy. Are you willing to move Deshaun Watson for Kyler Murray?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that. I mean, Watson has not looked good. He's a little bit older than Murray, not much older. And when it comes down to it, you're hoping that you can get Murray plus something. The problem is Watson's not playing either. What I'm doing, if I am trying to buy Murray, I'm hoping that team is hungry for wins. Like I want a team that's hungry for wins, so they're willing to overpay a little bit. So they're going to give me Murray plus something to go get, Murray plus something for Justin Fields is what I'd be looking to do. Obviously, it's hard. If you're Justin Fields and you see Minnesota, Las Vegas, and the Chargers on the schedule, it's going to be hard to sell him for Kyler Murray, who may not play. He may not play all year. We don't know. Like there's no rushing to bring him back. And when he does come back, what does that look like? But yeah, I'm moving Watson for Murray.
Okay. Would you rather have Kyler Murray into second or Dak Prescott and Alexander Madison?
Yeah, I'm taking Murray's side.
Yeah. Would you rather have Kyler Murray or Kenny Pickett and Jordan Addison?
Yeah, I mean, Pickett has very little value to me. So it's basically Murray for Addison. And as much as I like Matt Addison, I mean, Murray's premier position.
This is this past Sunday, this last trade. So this is not, 3 weeks ago. This was just a couple days ago. Kyler Murray or Mac Jones and a second. Like, Kyler Murray is a smashing buy right now. Smashing buy right now. And Jamie, bro, we can't be friends if you're not moving Madison. Dave, I know you're a lot higher on Madison than I ever have been, really. He's getting touchdowns. I'll give him that. But I'm not a fan.
I think Jamie's saying what you're saying. He's saying never Madison. He's saying like never accept the Madison.
Okay, all right, we're back to being friends again.
Yeah, that's where it's at. Hey,
you're okay. All right, cool.
I sold Madison for an early second in our league.
Lucky. Yeah. Smooth move. But yeah, I think when you look at all of these trades, there was not a single one that we would prefer. Either one of us, or even Jamie, who's listening, would prefer the other side over Kyler Murray. So I think Kyler Murray, whether you're contending, if you're trying to contend, maybe I don't want to move Dak Prescott and Alexander Madison for Kyler Murray, right? If I'm a top 3, top 4 team. But in most other situations, I'm going to be looking to try to go get Kyler Murray, especially if I can move guys like Mac Jones or Kenny Pickett to do that.
Yeah, sold Madison for the 109 to draft Kincaid after Cook was released. Yeah.
109?
He got Kincaid with it. The 109 probably looks a lot better than Kincaid right now, but Madison was going for some heat. If you check out Fantasy Pros has a buy low, sell high article. I'm in there, and I did put Madison as my sell high, Jonathan Taylor as my buy low. Speaking redraft, and not to pat my own back a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this again this year. 9th kicker ranker this week, 9th. So if you got any kicker questions, let me know. 10th in the wide receiver, 12th in running backs, 12th in IDP, and 27th overall for the ECR this week. So high scores all around for the for my Fantasy Pros ECR ranking. the Dynasty, the defensive special teams absolutely killed me this week. It was my absolute worst. I think I was 180 out of 206, but everything else was pretty good. Only have Madison one league. It's a full podcast expert, so nobody wants him. Yeah, I mean this Minnesota Vikings. Those Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be a very tough stretch without Justin Jefferson. A lot of injuries the last couple weeks.
Yep. All right. Who's next? You wanted to talk about Tua?
I want to talk about Tua.
All right, let's do it.
So Tua is obviously someone that people that selected him after Dak, after Daniel Jones, after the rookie quarterbacks, they're probably pretty happy with him right now. And those fears about him and his injury history are, wouldn't say a thing of the past, but they're definitely not the first thing you hear about when you talk about Tua right now. But if you brought Tua up anytime this offseason, the only thing people would make absolutely stupid and horrific jokes about him getting concussed, but they would also just display concerns about his long term, and it was pretty valid. So now you have 5 weeks of very good play, very good fantasy production. What's he going for?
He's expensive. He's expensive right now. There's a lot of like 4 for 4, 5 for 5 trades. You can't really look at those, so I'm going to skip over those. Tua and Brian Robinson, or Joe Burrow and Najee Harris. I mean, you're really looking at Najee Harris and Brian Robinson. Most people are probably going to want Brian Robinson right now. That's the reality of the matter. So you're looking at, is Joe Burrow that much higher than Tua? Like, I'm leaning the Tua side on this all day long if I can move Burrow and Najee for Tua and Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these things, you want to look at like situation. And Burrow is in a good situation with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and he's got, decent play caller. But Tua has probably the best play caller, maybe outside of Andy Reid, but the best play caller in the NFL, arguably, him, Shanahan, and Reid. And he's got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Devon Achane. And it's just like, man, it's a good situation. And a lot of us, including myself, missed. Like I definitely missed and did not go with Tua when I could have, and took somebody like a Dak Prescott or a Daniel Jones when I could have got a Tua and been much happier. So you're gonna have to pay. And so I know everyone always wants to buy low. Sometimes it's okay to buy high. Like it's okay. Like I'll be honest, I'm trying to buy Burrow and Allen off of Brad. It's not working, so I'm trying to buy Jalen Hurts. Like I'm not gonna. There's a reason the guy's low. Like there's a lot of risk, and when you take someone like Tua, I get it. I hear the risk already, but when you take someone like Tua, you've seen 5 weeks in a row of good production. I'm gonna take that versus trying to take a gamble and buy low on somebody and hope that it hits.
So let's go through some rankings real quick, right? So let's say first tier: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. Are you considering Tua in that tier at all?
No.
Okay, so next tier is probably guys like Joe Burrow, who we just talked about, Justin Herbert. Are you considering him
Trevor
in that
Lawrence?
tier?
Yep, Trevor Lawrence and Tua. CJ Stroud's probably in there too.
So Lamar, so that's kind of like a little bit of a, maybe it's a tier break, maybe it's not. You can lump them all together if you really choose to. But you got Lamar, Trevor Lawrence, like you talked about, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray, maybe below that. But is that the tier, or do you think he's above those guys?
He might be in the same tier, but he's a little higher. Like I would take him over Lamar Jackson right now. I may
want him over Joe Burrow, to be honest, right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could see taking him over Burrow. I could see him anywhere on that sliding scale. I mean, where would you do Tua and Kyler Murray?
Tua for me. It's Kyler's probably number 10-ish if I had to think through it a little bit. You could make an argument for Tua at number 4, to be honest, like after the big 3.
Sounds
and
like
I don't think anybody's going to argue with you, to be completely honest. So
sounds like a good dynasty price check coming.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, you ready to move on to tight ends? Or you want to talk to us
tight ends? Let's move
All
tight
right.
ends.
So I've got the first guy you're going to have to pay for. And look, I've talked about this a little bit before. Look, I would rather pay for the tight end after I know what they're going to be than to wait 2, 3, 4 years with the Kyle Pitts experience, right? Let me pay 2 first for Kyle Pitts first off, and then wait 3 or 4 years until he starts to contribute and starts to play well. Look, Sam Laporta is a man. And when he goes into the Detroit Lions and the way that coaching staff is calling plays, the way that offense is playing, the way Jared Goff is already looking his way, I'm going to go ahead and pay up for Sam Laporta to get him on my squad. So I'd even be willing to do a little tier break if I could make it work. If I can move Dallas Goedert for Sam Laporta plus, coming off the big game for Dallas Goedert, I'm looking to do something like that. So, Dave, am I crazy being ready after 5 short weeks for a rookie tight end to pull the trigger to go buy him?
No, I mean, I've been trying to buy him, and so I have a dynasty league. It's the only Kyle Pitts league that I have, and 2 weeks ago I put a thread up, and it was Kyle Pitts or Sam Laporta, and people were just like, "That's not real. That's not real. Who would buy Sam Laporta for Kyle Pitts?" And I was like, "I'm trying to." I like set the screenshot over. I literally sent the trade Kyle Pitts for Sam Laporta straight up. Like straight up, I'll take him.
Let's do it.
It got ignored, and then now it's not happening. And so, I mean, yeah, like you want to pay a premium for those guys, and like you said, it's really hard to pay a premium for a guy like Kyle Pitts, where you're given 5th, 6th round startup capital. You're given the 101, 102. You're trading 2 first, 3 first, and you're not getting anything. And the whole thing is just like, just hold on to that and stock, and one day you're gonna get it out. It's gonna be worth a whole bunch. It's like,
and in the meantime, you can watch Jonnu Smith outscore him on the field for 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. So back to the question here: do I stay with Higbee or go with Jonnu? I still have Waller. I mean, we don't know. Like, if you've seen the video with Kyle Pitts, something's wrong. Like someone said that something with his ACL. Like he didn't tear his ACL, but he's got like a knee issue that he's working through, and you can see him literally falling down when he goes to make cuts. He's creating 0 separation. And then last week he has his best game of the year, and everyone that went out and started Jonnu didn't really get much.
He still had a good game from a, especially if it's tight end premium, from a receptions and yardage perspective.
Yeah, and so you can see like Higbee hasn't really done much this year, and so it's going to be really hard for you to go and move on from either of those guys. I don't know if you can play Waller with Tyrod Taylor there. It's just it's tough, but I'm sticking with Higbee. I'm gonna stick with Higbee over Jonnu. Just I don't know.
I mean, Jonnu's playing a ton of snaps, and has all year. He's getting targeted from Desmond Ridder. The problem with Higbee is he had a big game 2 weeks ago, but now with Kupp return, he went back to just not really being involved. 3 targets in a game against Philadelphia Eagles where they need to put up points, and that it's get Kupp the ball, get Nakua the ball, get Kyron Williams the ball. Like Tyler Higbee is going to be an afterthought, in my opinion. Even though he's on the field the majority of the snaps playing the tight end position, he's just not getting the opportunity. Whereas Jonnu Smith's playing just as much snaps as he is. Not quite as much. He's in a 70%, like a 70% range versus the 80 to 90% range for Tyler Higbee. But he's getting targeted where Tyler Higbee just hasn't outside of that one game. So I would go with Jonnu and Waller over Tyler Higbee right now, probably every situation.
Yeah, I can go with that. And interestingly enough, I mean, you're not going to see a whole lot this week, but Van Jefferson was just traded from the Rams to the Atlanta Falcons. So I'd like to see what they do with that. I don't understand why the Falcons, who don't want to throw the ball, are buying receivers and paying top 10 draft picks for receivers and tight ends. But sometimes you just like fancy stuff.
There is no rational coaching there. So
yeah, Drake London's just a show pony. They just bring him around when the friends are around to show him off, but they don't use him on Sunday.
That's right. All right, so I got some offers for you for Laporta. Let's put your Laporta love to the test. And I know the answer for me. It's accept on all of these. Would you trade Isaiah Pacheco for Sam Laporta and a second-round pick?
Yes.
Would you trade Chris Olave for Sam Laporta?
No.
Would you trade Jahan Dotson for Sam Laporta?
Yes.
What if I put those two together? Jahan Dotson and Isaiah Pacheco for Sam Laporta.
Laporta.
There you go. There you go, folks.
Yeah.
It's for real. He is for real.
Yeah, he's moving up the dynasty rankings. I don't have my dynasty rankings right in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he's 10-4. He moved him up 10-3 last week in my rankings, my weekly rankings, and it wasn't. I mean, it was a huge tight end week, and I still was one off.
It's funny because here's an accepted trade: Sam Laporta for Kyle Pitts.
Damn it, not my league. I know that for sure.
I
gotta check my stuff. At this point, I'm probably going to pay a second-round pick plus Kyle Pitts to go get him. Thinking about it. So the next guy I had on the list was Komet, and I'd like to talk about Kelsey too, because we talked all off season about being a year early is better than being a year late. I'd like to know what Kelsey's going for right now because he's
Kelsey first.
He's been banged up, both guys. Whatever you want.
So it's too late now. I already trying to switch it over to Kelsey. So let's give it a second here because my computer wants to be super slow tonight.
Well, Kelsey, he might be a little super slow tomorrow if he's got the ankle. We don't even know if he's going to play.
You just don't know.
For Brock Bowers in a Devy league. Got a Devy question right here. Oof, that's a really tough one. I mean, I'd probably take Laporta because you know what you got.
That's where I'm at. There is no guarantee that Brock Bowers does not turn into Kyle Pitts. Everybody said Kyle Pitts, as soon as he got drafted, guys were paying 2-3 first-round picks for him, saying he's a generational, one-of-a-kind tight end. And here we are 3 years in, and nobody's happy with it, right? I'm not saying that's Brock Bowers, but you know what you have in Laporta. He's in a team that is producing, and I don't see that changing. They've already paid Jared Goff. So even if they extend him and give him an additional contract, the money is still there. Like they're able to make all of these pieces work. And I would keep Sam Laporta.
Yeah, it's a good question though.
Yep, for sure.
All right. Got for Kelsey.
Travis Kelce or George Kittle in a first.
Man. Obviously, this has to do with where your team is. If you're a rebuilding team, that you're taking Kittle in the first. For me, if you're a competing team, is what you saw from Kittle enough to make you believe that you can ride it out with Kittle and take the first, to make the difference up, because Kelsey could possibly miss this week.
Yeah, San Francisco, you just have to realize one of the three are going to, one or maybe even two of the three pass catchers could be busts from week to week, right? You're really only going to have either George Kittle or Brandon Ayuk or Debo Samuel be studs, CMC's getting his regardless, right? So you just have to be willing to accept that risk. And he bit me in the ass last season because of that. The up and down, right? He gives you a week in the playoffs. It just doesn't progress you to the next week. So you have to be willing and able to accept that. But how about Travis Kelce for a first and a second?
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey's going to be near impossible to trade if you are a contending team. But if you're not a contending team, you have to take it.
I might take it even as a contending team. Look, here's the reality of it. And I get it. You don't want to plan for this, but this is the reality of it. We'll use Nick Chubb as an example, right? Browns fan, Jamie Browns fan. Nick Chubb coming into this season, massive value. You could move him for an enormous chunk of change in a dynasty league, even as a 27-year-old running back. Now, 27-year-old running back, broke-ass knee, you ain't getting nothing for him. Travis Kelce is 34, 33?
I believe he's 34, about to be 35.
Yeah, like it's time. One injury and the bottom falls out. He's not worth anything anymore. That scare, his knee scare, the non-contact 2 weeks ago, I bet you could have bought him for pennies on the dollar after that. Pennies on the dollar after that. So that's my concern with him. If I can get Kittle in a first, yeah. Like I said, I got to be willing to deal with the ebbs and flows. If I can move Kelce for a first and a second, I'm going to do that also. Like, I just, at some point in time, you have to take it, because once the bottom falls out, it's done. Like, there isn't going to be a steady decline for Travis Kelce from an ADP and a draft capital perspective.
Would you take Sam Laporta for Kelce straight up?
Yes.
Me too. Yep. Yeah, I would. So like that's a way you can do it is, Kelce obviously has name value. He's been the number one tight end or two tight end in the last 5 years. You're getting someone that's, younger, and you're going to get, 10 more years, even if Kelce turns back into Kelce and is unstoppable the rest of the year. So, I definitely have Laporta above Kelce in my dynasty rankings.
So not to go back to Laporta, but where are you at with Hockenson versus Laporta? So big age difference between Hockenson and Kelce, a lot closer with Laporta. Number 2 target on his team, similar to what we're seeing with Laporta. Where are you at with those two tight ends? If you've got TJ Hockenson, are you trying to, we'll say, tear down to Sam Laporta as well? Or is that a guy you're willing to keep above Laporta?
Yeah, I don't know you're going to get much more. Like, I think that they're probably pretty close, and the person with Laporta, especially after a 2-touchdown performance, is not looking to move him. And give you a second plus Laporta for Hockenson. So I don't know if that's the move you can do right now, but I'm okay with that. If I have Hockenson and somebody says, hey, I'll give you a Laporta plus, I'm okay with that move. I don't know if I would do it straight up right now. Hawkinson's got a little bit more history of doing well, but again, you're looking at the age, and for someone to break out as a rookie, it's really uncommon. And I know we hated on Kyle Pitts earlier, who broke out as a rookie. You don't want to see something like that happen. That's why I'm going to go with Hockenson, but I'm still pretty high on Laporta. And if you were to say, give me a second and Laporta for Hockenson, I'm just going to keep Laporta.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I bought CMC for a first and a second, and the guy is kicking himself for it back when CMC had all the hamstring issues and stuff. But then I sold Austin Eckler for a first, and I'm kicking myself, even though I'm happy with it. I think I got Zay Flowers for it. But it's tough. You take the gamble, and sometimes it pays off, and sometimes, like I was telling, like, my buddy's learning Dynasty. I'm trying to talk to him about it. And I said, like Julio Jones, if you could have got a second round pick for him 2 years ago, you should have took it. but you probably were just stuck on the name and wanted a first. And
Yep.
then the next year he was worth the third, and then next year he was worth nothing. And so,
Yep.
like, you hold the bag too long on these players. I understand if you're a contender, like, yeah, you don't give away Raheem Mostert for a 4th-round pick. You don't. You don't give away Kelsey if someone sends you a crap offer. But like, if you can go and that's how you keep competing, is if you could turn Kelsey into Laporta and still compete.
Fair enough. All right, you ready for Cole Kmet?
Do
Cole
it.
Kmet, next tight end. We want to look at a couple trades, talk about whether or not they are buys or sells. So Cole Kmet or Tyler Higbee and a second.
Higbee doesn't have too much trade value, so I would take Kmet in that situation. I
Let's
know it's
say
just too.
that's the worst team in the league, and that's the 201. I don't know why they would do this, but we just heard the worst team in the league buying Jerome Ford for a second. So this shouldn't be too far off from that.
Yeah. In that case, I would definitely keep the pick. I would sell
take
Kmet
it.
for that. I would sell Kmet for that. Like, Kmet is someone you could sell off of 2 good games, but I'm okay with buying him. I'm just, like, an early second for Kmet. I don't know if I'd be willing to pay that.
And for context, that trade was yesterday, not 2 weeks ago. Cole Kmet or Jonathan Mingo?
Kmet.
Cole Kmet or Jaleel McLaughlin?
Kmet.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh at that, but
yeah, I mean, people get desperate, and sometimes they do pay a premium for running backs, and so your leagues are going to vary, and so like you just you don't go out there trying to rip people off, but sometimes you never know. Like, I got some leagues where like people are like they're just impossible to trade with, and then you see them pull off a trade and you're like, what are they doing? Like, sometimes it just, it comes down to how people value a player.
All right. One more tight end and we'll call it quits.
Let's do it.
All right. Luke Musgrave, guy you were high on coming into the draft, coming out of the draft, a guy I was low on. Was clearly wrong. I think that's a given, even though he hasn't really had that explosion game, that he's been getting targets down the field. In week 3, he had 2 targets of greater than 25 yards that were overthrown. He was wide open. They'd have been long touchdowns, and Jordan Love just missed him, right? So there is a big game in the works for Luke Musgrave. So to me, he's a buy before that happens, but let's see if the value actually matches that. Would you move Luke Musgrave for Roschon Johnson?
Yeah, I'd probably go for Roschon. In that situation, Musgrave is still a little bit of a projection, and so you're gonna have to wait a little bit. And I think you can, I think you can get some value for Roschon, and you could probably, turn Roschon into something.
Yeah, Jamie, I was so low on Musgrave. It was not cool. Like, I just couldn't get behind a guy who had just the ridiculously low number of games and catches. I want to say it was something like 44 catches through his entire college career or something like that. It was something crazy low. I couldn't do it. So
it was George Kittle low.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, it
don't,
was just
don't
like,
compare him to George Kittle. Don't do that to me right now.
I'm comparing the comparison of if you look at George Kittle, I mean, it was super low. Like, this guy was not productive. That's just how it is. But Musgrave, I think what the learning out of Musgrave was you like the tools. And so a guy with that size and that profile and that lateral quickness, like straight line tight end, I'm not looking for a guy that runs the fastest 40. I want to see a guy that's got some wiggle and can move with the ball in his hands. You saw it with Laporta. You saw it with Musgrave, and we saw it with Kincaid. Kincaid hasn't popped yet, but from a standpoint or an average tight end season, it's pretty good.
So I'm beginning to think that Musgrave might be a little too expensive. So these next couple trades are way outside of the realm of possibility for me. Luke Musgrave or Dallas Goedert?
Goddard.
Yeah, like that's a big time tilt. Big time tilt. Luke Musgrave or Puka?
What? Yeah, Puka.
Then you get into some stuff. This is weeks, a week and a half ago. Luke Musgrave for Tyjae Spears.
That one, I'm going with Tyjae Spears, but I can understand that one. That one's really close, and I do like that Tyjae's already getting involved with him over there, and like Musgrave, as much as I like him, it's not like he's doing anything that says that I can't find another Musgrave next year. When Tyjae Spears is looking like the starting running back for the Tennessee Titans next year.
Yep.
So Brad and Jamie, I'm going to ask how many receptions do you think Luke Musgrave had
through the year or last year?
All of his college career.
I'm sticking with 44. I feel like, or 24. It was 24, I think.
Jamie? All right. So, Brad, there was a one catch difference. George Kittle's college career in 4 years had 48 receptions, 737 yards, 10 touchdowns. And then
47.
He had 48.
48,
10 touchdowns, and 748 yards, something like that. And
I'm proud of myself for remembering it was in the 40s even.
That was George Kittle.
Oh.
Luke Musgrave was 47, 633, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So George Kittle had 48, and Musgrave had 47. The difference was that Kittle had 100 more yards receiving and 8 more touchdowns.
Jamie said 14.
I mean, yeah, it
feels like that. It may have been 14 in his junior season.
He had 11 his senior year.
Was it?
Musgrave only played a couple games, back injury.
Yeah.
So, I traded Musgrave for a third. I traded for Musgrave, just traded a late third-round pick. And, I mean, he is a player that I would like to have, but I still would like, Tyjae Spears or Roschon Johnson ahead. Running backs, you find out what you got faster. And there's also an earlier return with that. Like, you could take, let's say he does play this week and does pop off. You could quickly turn him around and trade him for a whole bunch. If Musgrave has a big game this week, you're not going to be able to just turn around and trade him for a whole lot.
Yeah. Same thing with Tyjae Spears. And it doesn't even have to be a week-to-week thing with these running backs. Both Roschon and Tyjae Spears could find themselves as the lone running back for their respective teams going into the season next year, which means massive value spike. So you move this Luke Musgrave for one of them straight up, and then in an off season, because of the situation, you could go right back and move them and get Luke Musgrave plus a shit ton on top of them. So
yeah, you could do what you did with Madison and get 109.
Yeah. That's nuts.
So bring it full circle.
Nuts. Yeah.
Well, I think we've covered the quarterbacks and the tight ends. If you guys have any other questions, please check out our Patreon. We also have our Discord channel. The Discord channel is absolutely free. And then don't forget to hit that subscriber button. Good luck this season.
Cheers.